The month of May in Zermatt, Switzerland is one visitors are often told should be skipped. It's a time when locals take a much-needed break from a busy ski season, and when the village patiently anticipates snowmelt from the surrounding Alps. There's nothing to do, or so I'd been told. I was curious, though, what is one of Switzerland's most sought-after destinations like during the quieter months? What could I uncover in the margins? What are the footnotes of a village in waiting? While I expected compromise, I instead discovered something more grounding, an opportunity to observe the detail uninterrupted. Shoulder season gave me a version of Zermatt most people miss, and I think with a bit of creative planning, it could possibly be one of my new favorite times to visit the Alps. This was my third time traveling to Switzerland, but a first-time visit to this specific area. And after accidentally booking a seat in the family coach for the 3.5-hour train ride from Zurich to Zermatt, I was grateful to arrive in the village unscathed and ready for an adventure. A surprisingly snowy one. It was mid-May after all, but an adventure nonetheless. With an obligatory stop at a local bakery, I grabbed a quick snack and made my way up the main street toward the historic Hotel Monte Rosa. Opening in 1839, this property was known to host pioneers of the mountaineering world and retains a charming and cozy ambiance of years past. It's hard not to feel like you're stepping back in time when you walk through the doors, and that's honestly one of the main reasons I booked here. That and its location right in the center of town. The room was clean and spacious and had all these extra little things that really set it above the rest. Forgot your adapter? No problem. Need some nutrients? We got you. And perhaps my favorite, looking for fresh sheets? Place Elsa the cow on your bed and she'll get to it. And as tempting as bed sounded after my 15-hour travel day from New York, I was intent on not missing a moment in Zermatt. I fueled up on my sweet treat from the bakery and decided to head out for dinner. I had only been in town for an hour, but it was immediately obvious how many restaurants were closed, many having signs on their windows about reopening later in June. Though I had to let go of visiting most of the spots I saved during my trip planning, I did enjoy the real-time challenge of trying to find A, what was still actually open, and B, what food was going to be worth the cost. We already know Switzerland is expensive, but Zermatt is next level. Recommended by my hotel was Whymperstube, a quaint restaurant serving up classic Swiss cuisine. The name comes from Edward Whymper, a legendary English mountaineer who completed a first ascent up the nearby Matterhorn in 1865. Though iconic, the Matterhorn so far was proving to be rather elusive, hiding in the clouds and blowing frosty winds down through the village corridors. It added an air of suspense to the evening, one which just made me even more excited for the sunny days to come. For now, it was time to eat, and naturally, I had to order the bratwurst and splurged on a mushroom fondue. Service was great. Food was, I'll say, satisfactory at best. Price? Any guesses? I paid 66 Swiss francs, or 84 US dollars, which included a $4 upcharge for eating fondue by myself. It felt like a solo traveler discrimination fee, but what do I know? I'll have to do better tomorrow. If you're coming to Zermatt, the single best thing you can do is download the official Matterhorn app. It is your one-stop shop for understanding what's in the area, what to see, what to do, what to book, what's open, what's closed. It has everything, and it's what I referred to each morning when planning out my day. This Saturday morning report was showing low-lying clouds with the promise of partly sunny skies later in the day. Especially handy to see when this was otherwise the view from my room. I could see a small sliver of blue if I really craned my neck. By 8 a.m., I was downstairs scoping out the buffet breakfast. and enjoyed its tasty offerings while perusing the hotel's daily newspaper. A cute touch, if you ask me, and particularly helpful with determining my next move. Zermatt sits at 1,600 meters in elevation and is surrounded by towering mountain peaks stretching up to nearly 4,500 meters. In May, most of the upper terrain remains comfortably blanketed in snow, while some mid-mountain and lower elevations gradually see their first blooms of spring. For hikers, this means most of the popular and more scenic trails are closed for the season, but according to the app, there were roughly 11 routes safely open to explore. I decided to pursue the family-friendly Marmot Trail and headed over to the Sunnegga funicular, finally catching a glimpse of the Matterhorn on the way.
Please get on board the funicular. The doors are about to close.
Even if you take the 5-minute funicular ride up just to see this viewpoint, I'd say it's well worth it. In the summertime, lifts from Sunnegga are open, bringing you even higher in elevation where you can hike the Marmot Trail down. In May, however, the only way to do this trail was up, and I clocked a 5.5-mile out and back trek with 548 meters of elevation gain. Unless you and your loved ones regularly climb mountains together, I assume the family-friendly designation actually refers to the informative and fun displays popping up along the route, detailing the life of marmots. Each wood carving serves as an outpost from which to observe the furry alpine creatures. Marmots are expert diggers, burrowing long tunnels into the terrain and hibernating inside for up to 6 months each year. The summer is your best chance at seeing these guys, but you might even luck out with a few early sightings in the spring as well. Certainly a nice perk of the trail, but I'd say it was far from the selling point. With Matterhorn views obscured in the clouds behind me, my eyes were set on the gorgeous mountains ahead. To be honest, I didn't exactly know where this trail ended, so I decided to see how far I could go up. Before long, I arrived at Stellisee Lake, making for a scenic viewpoint amid the terrain. If you've heard of the famous Five Lakes Trail, this is part of it, and I'm embarrassed to say I had no idea. According to the app, the Five Lakes Trail was closed, presumably because the chairlift was still closed, so I didn't even look into where it was exactly. It wasn't until a few days later that I figured it out, and I'm so happy to know I got to experience a small portion of that trail. Stellisee is well known for its stunning reflection of the Matterhorn. Weather wasn't entirely in my favor for that today, but I'll admit I was more captivated by the scenery in the opposite direction. While most folks were turning around, I continued up, blindly feeling through my bag to ensure I did indeed pack my microspikes. There were a few patches of snow on this part of the trail and some thawing ski slopes to cross. I arrived at the Flualp hut without much fanfare, left to imagine what a sunny summer afternoon would look like up here. Live music, drinks, maybe a sandwich and some strudel. It was eerie in its abandoned state, yet there was a peaceful energy to it. Mountain huts in the Alps feel like an extension of the land, at least to me. Oftentimes they are lovingly cared for by local families, and if you think even further back, someone long ago selected this very spot in a balance of nature versus necessity. The result is a place of refuge that feels as if it's always been a part of the mountain. And I'd argue that apart from the environment itself, these huts are big contributors to what makes the Alps so special. As I stared into the distance, I was stunned to realize that what I had assumed was a string of snowy slopes was actually a massive glacier. Could I possibly walk to it? From where I stood, it looked like there might be a path, but I could tell winter hadn't quite let go. So I was looking at Google Maps, and there is a glacier on the other side of this hill. And I'm following an actual trail, but I've hit a patch of snow. There are footprints here, but there's also a stream running underneath the snow, so I'm a little nervous to go over that, even though it looks like these footprints made it. I'm gonna see if there's another way around. I retreated slightly and located an old road that I thought might lead the way. Honestly, it's just a sea of ice. So as much as I want to see the glacier, because I think there's a viewpoint somewhere up there, I don't know that I'm going to make it safely. So, we'll explore this abandoned building. In a last attempt at seeing the glacier, I found a trail climbing up above the hut I had just come from. Though far away, it was hard not to be completely captivated by the scene. With sunlight dancing in and out of the clouds, the landscape at times felt like a black and white photograph, and at others, an untouched Martian landscape. I was shivering, but I sat here for 30 minutes observing the ebb and flow. By the time I made it back to the village, the Matterhorn was out again in full force. Go figure. I washed up and secured a reservation at Grampi's, enjoying a tasty prosciutto pizza right in the heart of town. Mediocre, sure, but with limited options, it definitely hit the spot after a full day on the trail. In an effort to check out some other options, I splurged on dessert at Weisshorn, grabbing an apple strudel and green tea. Loved the vibe in here and would definitely recommend it if you're seeking a more low-key atmosphere with decent food. After spending 24 hours in Zermatt, it hadn't escaped me that I had yet to fully explore the village itself. And I think that was largely informed by the weather. If the forecast was clear, I wanted to be up in the mountains. Shopping along the main thoroughfare would simply have to wait. For now, I did want to give myself some perspective on the location, so I decided to go on an evening stroll up to an overlook. I should have known this wasn't going to be a hidden gem when I saw it marked on Google Maps, but I have to admit it was a worthwhile spot. While it was pretty crowded, everyone was respectful of one another and found a place to sit or stand as the sun set beside the Matterhorn. In the shadow of the surrounding mountains, Zermatt from this angle felt like one of those Christmas villages my grandparents would set up for the holiday season. The coming and going of miniature-looking trains as the lights kicked on around town had a sort of whimsical feel to it, and it really gave me a second to appreciate how grateful I was to be there, truly soaking in every ounce of the moment. There's nothing I love more than a sunrise stroll exploring a new destination. And with a nearly perfect forecast lined up for the day, I couldn't help but be up and out by 6 a.m. The village, asleep in the early morning light, was a treasure trove of classic Swiss architecture and shy glimpses of spring sprinkled in the shadows. While there were others awake and flocking to a now Instagram famous spot, I hate that that's a thing, yet here we are, and here's the view, I found solace a few blocks away exploring some of the more historic passageways. Captured among the dark woods and slanted slabs are carefully preserved homes, barns, shops, and stables built between the 16th and 18th centuries. Blackened by sunlight, the moody, lopsided aesthetic was fit for a fairy tale, and really impressive to see as a complete collection all within a singular street. Of course, there are many other opportunities to see relics of years past, both in town and up in the mountains, and the latter is exactly where you'll find me wandering today. The Gornergratbahn made history as the first electric cogwheel railway in Switzerland over 127 years ago. From the village, it ascends to an elevation of nearly 3,089 meters over the course of 35 minutes, surpassing dense forests in favor of breathtaking views of the Swiss Alps. And at this altitude, I do definitely mean breathtaking. I was on the first train up at 7 a.m.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be arriving at the Gornergrat in just a few minutes. Please have your tickets ready for the electronic turnstile.
Every time I travel, I keep a daily journal of what I saw, and more importantly, how I felt. On this page, I only had one word written: spectacular. Stepping off the train was like arriving on the cusp of where land meets sky. It had a feeling of being suspended between two worlds, airborne and yet in flawless harmony. Maybe it's my lack of oxygen triggering the poetry, but standing here, staring out, it was difficult not to be moved by what I was seeing. And I hadn't even fully processed the marvel of engineering it took to get me here. With only a few of us at the top, it was such a relief to be able to take my time and sincerely observe everything in every direction. The Gornergrat is open year-round, making it a perfect excursion while visiting Zermatt in May. I spent nearly an hour here before catching my train back down, though I wasn't quite going all the way down. One of the great things about the Gornergratbahn is there are several stops along its route, making it easy to hop off and explore different parts of the mountain. I waited until we were below the snow line to exit the train.
Nächster Halt. Next stop, Riffelalp.
I could not pass up the opportunity to hike on such a magnificent day and decided to pursue the Riffelalp Trail down to Zermatt. There were a few detours along the way, but in total I clocked 7 kilometers. From the solitude of a still forest to the abandoned hotels and restaurants perched slopeside, it was a stark reminder that I was here off-season. And quite frankly, I loved it. With dappled light trickling through the tree canopy and a crisp bite to the air, the Matterhorn from this angle felt as if it were being held up by the emerging summer blooms. There was only one wildlife sighting for me, but I did have my eyes peeled for the famous and adorable black-nosed sheep, though I knew my chances were slim this month. The hike passed over vacant ski trails, eventually arriving at the Ritti mountain hut. Like every other place, this hut was also closed for the season, but the simple serenity of its location convinced me to just sit down and enjoy the landscape before me. And why not call this snack time while we're at it? It was here where I decided to venture off my initial route in favor of a stroll to the small hamlet of Furi. Earlier in the day, I saw the name mentioned as part of the cultural trail, so I was curious to check it out for myself. Met by rustic homes and barns of centuries past, Furi was a tranquil retreat frozen in time. It was easy to walk the well-worn path, imagining days when this was simply a summer pasture for cattle. Yet the persistent humming of a nearby cable car was a somewhat distracting reminder of modern times. The Furi mountain station, set right in the center of the community, is a popular launching point for a number of adventurous activities, including a ride up to Matterhorn Glacier Paradise. You can also connect here for a trip back down to Zermatt. And though it might sound like just a stopover, Furi is recognized for its own beautiful sights and delicious cuisine, making it a highly recommended summertime destination. From here, I continued my descent along the cultural trail, and if possible, the views only became more magical. If I left my heart anywhere along this hike, it's probably still beating somewhere in the hamlet of Zum See. With its compact array of historic homes, Zum See felt like a storybook illustration come to life. The wonky buildings and delightfully uneven walkways seemed to mirror the tumultuous terrain on which it sat. And its sleepy state made me wonder what secrets might be hidden behind the walls. After a full day on the mountain, I arrived back in Zermatt in time for a quick shower and what I was hoping would be a great dinner. With lukewarm reviews from my first 2 nights, I made it a priority to find a worthwhile restaurant that was open and somewhere away from the main strip. My research led me to restaurant Genepy, a trendy establishment offering unparalleled views of the Matterhorn. I thoroughly enjoyed a white wine and Wagyu burger, and then splurged on the signature raspberry mousse and a sampling of the apricot and thyme sorbet. This is the type of meal, atmosphere, and friendly service I'm willing to spend money on. And for those of you keeping tabs, 76 Swiss francs. Highly recommend. Intent on sneaking a peek at local life here in Zermatt, I made it a point to wander the more suburban streets on my way back to the hotel. With a mixture of new builds and old architecture, this eclectic community seems to embrace change while honoring its past. Though dozens of chalets and homes were shuttered for the season, there was a quiet energy to the folks who kept residence here year-round. To me, this is the true backbone of Zermatt, and these people are a big part of what makes this village so special. The next morning, sadly the last one of the trip, was an ideal time to peruse the more central village streets. With numerous shops, restaurants, and hotels, the tourism infrastructure here is a well-oiled machine. And if you're just visiting on a day trip, there's no shortage of things to do right in town. A few of my favorite spots included this small garden center, a tribute to the female mountaineers, these cozy benches, sometimes offering unobstructed views of the Matterhorn, and Sprungli Chocolate Shop, which is my absolute favorite chocolate brand in the world. Hidden a bit further up from the train station was an adorable dairy stand where I purchased cheese and yogurt. And as if emerging just to put a cap on this already extraordinary trip, I ran into those famous Valais black-nosed sheep right above town. I learned that this was their first day back in Zermatt this season. Over the summer, you can look up Meet the Sheep and find a web link to their real-time location, but in the spring, they're usually too far away to be tracked. I don't know how I lucked out, but boy, were they the cutest. Visiting Zermatt ahead of its bustling summer season was an adventure suitable to the flexible traveler. If you're okay swapping out some of the must-see spots for a more curiosity-driven itinerary, then you won't feel limited for a second. If I were to do it again, I'd opt to stay in an apartment where I could cook my own food or enjoy the prepackaged meals from the neighborhood markets. I'd still splurge on a nice restaurant or two, but when the options are slim in the springtime, I'd be happy to balance it out with simple at-home meals. Other than that, the Matterhorn app was my lifeline this trip, helping set realistic expectations and figure things out on the fly. It was honestly the most comprehensive app I've ever used, and I hope other cities take note of the format because it was such a tremendous tool to have as a visitor. If you're commuting from anywhere else in Switzerland to Zermatt, make sure to look into the Swiss Travel Pass or half fare card to save you money on transportation. For my trip beginning and ending in Zurich, the half-fare card helped cut costs on the train rides between cities and reduce the prices of things like the Gornergratbahn and Sunnegga funicular. It's something I should have taken advantage of years ago when I did my 6-day trip around the country, but you live and you learn. For now, I'm grateful to have had another incredibly fulfilling experience in this beautiful country. I came to Zermatt expecting shoulder season to be a compromise, and instead, I think it might be the very reason I'll come back. Until next time, thank you so much for watching.